SPANN, this is Terry Ellis. Welcome to number 5 of the 10 question podcast. This is Terry. He's had a colourful life of crime.
I just want to say thank you for coming down to London today, and thank you for letting me be part of Change Your Life with Down Your Knife. It's an honour.
Excellent. No, you're just as much involved in it as what I am, to be honest with you, mate. So you're the voice of reasoning, I'll call you, mate, on the rest of the podcasts.
So we've had quite a lot of killings in Camden over the last 4 years. I think we've had 8 in my area alone, and that's why we started up Camden Against Violence.
Yeah.
And that's why we feel it's a real great thing and a great opportunity to help change your life with your knife, and hopefully make that as big as possibly can be, and hopefully amalgamate all the other groups to come together and as one voice.
Yeah, we're definitely making an impact, mate, I think, when it comes to knife crime and these other campaign groups, well, within the campaign groups as well. So Terry, how old was you, mate, when you first got into crime?
God, I think I was 11 years old. I was always up to no good. I was nicking cars at 10 and 11 years old. We were breaking into shops, breaking into warehouses. I think when I actually really started getting into it was, I had a friend of mine from King's Cross got in touch with me, and we went down to King's Cross. The trains used to come past, and we had the big transporters, the car transporting trains.
Yeah.
And I said, what we're going to do? He said, look, I jumped on one of these trains last week, and there's all cars in them. And when I looked inside the cars, I opened them up, and there was all car radios in them. So what we did, we waited for 2 days, and eventually a car transporter came past. It was about a mile long, and we ran along, and we jumped up, and we took black bags with us. And what we did, we opened the car door, we jumped in, unscrewed all the cassette radios and radios, and by the time we got 10 of them, we was about 2 miles up the road. So we then dropped it off the sides, and then we went back and filled the other bag up, and then we was about 5 miles away from Camden, and we jumped at the train and we walked back. But that was my first sort of job, as to get into criminality, which at the time was, I think you could go and work as a kid doing a paper round and nick £1 a week. You could work on a van delivering parcels and nick about 6 or 7 quid. We were making £10 for a radio, so I think we had about 16 radios. So we were young kids, and we thought we were millionaires. So it sort of switched me on to sort of becoming more organised.
So what was the start of your life with the crime, if that makes sense?
I think for me, living in Camden Town, it was quite a poor area. It was quite industrious. There was lots of families in the area, and every family that we knew were at it. My mum was a shoplifter. My dad was an armed robber. I didn't know at the time, though. Unfortunately, we didn't come home with a shotgun or a mask.
Yes.
I never realised until years later. But every person that I met, they were all dubious. If we wanted to buy jackets, we wouldn't go to a shop. We would go to a garage. Someone would open up a garage. We would get t-shirts, trousers, everything else. We wanted stereos, radios, anything, or even a television.
Like Dalboy and Rodney.
That was the sort of things we did. So I don't think we ever went in the shop and bought anything when I was a kid, apart from my mum was a shoplifter.
Yes.
So that's the only time I ever went into a shop, and was to really just to cover areas, to make it look like convincing.
Yeah.
Which played a part with me, because I always felt quite a way when I used to watch her do it, or I felt, I hope she doesn't get caught. If she does, she's going to get nicked and she's going to go to the police station. That then brought up a lot of anxiety in me and everything else. So it made me want to go out and earn money.
So it was bred in you, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
In essence, it's like you're a product of your. I say this a lot on these podcasts, but you're a product of your environment.
Well, it's also, it was also the fact I didn't want her to get nicked, because then my brothers and sisters would lose their mum. She'd go to prison. So yeah. I think it was a catalyst for me to go out and try and get as much money as I could to bring home.
Yeah.
So I found myself going out at 1 o'clock in the mornings, breaking into shops, breaking into warehouses. Even she used to come out and put me into warehouses. But we then started having lots of money then, because I was sort of going out and doing
providing.
Yeah. So I think the embarrassment of her being caught, or the shame of being caught, or everything else, made me want to go out and sort of be a saviour. That's crazy. It's a crazy way of thinking about it. But I felt as if I was doing something good.
What was it like when you first got sent to jail? So when that door first shut behind you?
Oh, I think for me, you know, the worst time of prison is, you know, the easiest part is getting sentenced and waiting in the dock. I can always remember pulling up outside the gates of Ashford, and you know, it was dark, it was raining, you know, but I could hear them people shouting out the windows. You know, that was the first time I ever experienced it, and I was terrified just being in a van, but going in there and actually going to see the guards, and then walk into the cells. It was a long corridor, and there was cells on each side. I think there was about 50 cells down one side and 50 down the other side, and you can hear people kicking doors and screaming. And you know what? As a young 16, 17-year-old kid, I was terrified, but I had all the bravado of someone who didn't give a toss, who was prepared to do anything and to sort of think he was a big man. And unfortunately, I did the next day. Someone come and said something to me, and I ended up chinning him, and that was you know, me. I was fortunate enough that I went inside with a couple of my pals from my manor. So you know, so if anyone picked on us or anyone started in trouble, there was 3 or 4 of us that could actually have a tear up. But so it wasn't that bad. I spent a couple of months in the block. I think the block was worse than the landings because the screws at them times were proper scumbags. If you went down the block, you would get a proper kicking, and it wouldn't just be one; it'd be like 3 or 4 in one day, and then they come back the next day and do the same again. This is to teach you a lesson. You know, they were going to kick some sense into you, so they thought. But all it did then to me was, you know, pretty build up a resentment towards authority, and I. You know, I think I
toughened you up a little bit as
well. I got toughened up. I was really angry at the fact that I've been brutalised by these guys for really just standing up for myself on a wing. So it wasn't a good time in my life, but it sort of kept me instead, you know, throughout my life, because it made me hard. You know, I was in there as a young kid. I think I'd done just 2.5 years in out of a 4-year sentence. But when I came out, I felt I was like Rocky Balboa. I was up for anything. I was training every day. But yeah, I wasn't a good kid. I wasn't a nice kid then.
How old was you when you first got sent to jail?
Well, officially as a young adult, I was 17 years old. But at the age of 11 and a half, I actually went to Stanford House. It's a lock-up for young kids. That was my first foray into being locked up. I was 11 and a half there, but adult, I think 17 years old, it was to Ashford Remand Centre.
If you could rewind your life, would you do it all over again?
Oh God, yeah. I think for me, you know, I suffered from dyslexia, so that made me really embarrassed, and I was very destructive. I always used to try and get out of school, not go there, and if I did go, I'd mess about and I'd make everyone laugh, or I'd cause a fight, just so I can get kicked out of the class. So you know, for me, if I had to do it all again, I think I would have told someone I had dyslexia.
That was one of my next questions. Was you bullied, or did you suffer from any learning difficulties?
I wasn't never bullied because I was always pretty handy. I was lucky enough that my brother was 6 foot. He was 6'4". You know, I'm 6 foot. He's 6'4". So when we went to school, no one really messed with us. Both of us could. My old man was a boxer, so he used to teach us how to box when we was really young. So yeah, no bullying. But you know, my biggest fear was not people or kids. My biggest fear was me. You know, I feared going to a classroom and feeling embarrassed, and I think it was about ego, about embarrassment. I didn't want to go in there and feel embarrassed, but that's my only regret. If I could do it all over again, I would love to have been able to go to school and learn. I'd love to be able to go to university or college and then graduate and do what I like best now, writing. I love writing now. But as a young kid, you know, I wasn't. No one ever came to me and sort of said, you know, there's some help. You know, and that's you know, getting on that subject of change your life, put down your knife. The good thing about doing these organisations now and being part of it is that I want to try and give something back and try and teach the kids something that I always wanted. Just that little bit of support, you know, a little bit of self-worth to give me an encouragement to actually go, you know what, I can do this. I can stay on the school, and regardless if I've got dyslexia or learning difficulties, I can actually go on and actually learn and be more productive. So you know, if I had someone who was a mentor and I could turn my life around, then I wouldn't have wasted so many years in prison.
Of course.
Which is one of the biggest regrets of my life.
coming up to the next question, what was it like at the peak of your career?
The polar opposite of being the worst time. For me, it was really good, to be honest. I can't really. I had so much money. I had 2 houses. I had lovely cars. I was going to Thailand, Bangkok, Hong Kong. I was living in Spain, Amsterdam. I had loads of birds. I had loads of partying. One of my girlfriends her sister was a celebrity, so I was going out to Kate Moss every night. Jude Law. Life was just fantastic, and I thought this is it. I'd actually made it.
Yeah.
And it went from being in that lifestyle to being handcuffed the next day with my face on the floor, and it all gone. They confiscated my ass and everything.
What was it like at the rock bottom of your career? So basically when you was probably we've had your face on the floor with you being cuffed up.
Oh, you know what? So I think for most of my criminal career, and even when I was a kid doing the robberies, I think it was always a game. It was always cat and mouse. We never expect to be caught. We never expect our lifestyle to catch up to us. And all of a sudden, I can remember being that 17-year-old kid the first time I ever got nicked. I can remember opening my door and about 7, 8 old Bill just coming flying at me with guns and everything else and putting me on the floor. And that was the realisation it wasn't a game. And then fast forward to 35, I've been nicked again. I had 2 houses, I had loads of money, and I was living the life. And all of a sudden, I'm now spread eagled again on the floor. And then I'm sitting in the cell in Pentonville, surrounded by cockroaches and everything else.
Yeah.
And I realised then that everything that I had nicked, because as a thief or as a criminal, we have a very warped sense of fair play. We can go out and take and do exactly what we want. We can break every rule in the book. We can sell drugs. We can nick. We can do everything. We have violence, gratuitous violence. But the minute something happens to us,
it's not right.
We start screaming. The fact they've taken my ass and they've taken all my money, which I stole.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So for me, I think having it all and then losing it was one of the biggest climaxes.
What about being at the peak and the rock bottom, the people that you had around you, so fake friends for argument's sake, or having a lot of people around you at the top of your career, and then when you found yourself at the bottom of your career, you were sort of on your own, you realised who was true and who wasn't true?
I think you realise very early, on the way up I helped a lot of people. I never burnt any bridges. I helped so many people, a lot of people starts, gave them gear. I was giving people kilos of cocaine, and I was giving people good legs up. But I realised that the minute I needed any help, nothing was there.
Yeah.
The visits dried up after a year. I think when you first go in prison, everyone comes there because it's like, let's go and see Terry, he's in prison, he's in the fucking cage. Let's go and see what it's like. And then after that first year, and this is after I'm getting this, I think I've got 18 years then, 18 year sentence. After the first year, I never got no visits.
Yeah.
Apart from my kids. So for me, I never got, they started sending money in, my pals and all that. But it soon dried up. I've had a couple of real good pals that have stood by me, but the majority of them, if I said I had 100 friends then, I came out with 2.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. And it never changed, because when I got out, all the people I helped have gone up in the world. And the thing is, they don't want you to come up because they know how good you are. So what they do, they don't give you nothing on tick. They don't even try to help you. All they do is avoid you. So the minute you get caught, you're then looked upon as someone who's had his day, who's potentially too hot of a potato to be near, and so you're ostracised and you're left in the wilderness. So you need to come up with something of your own.
Plan B.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
So, was your life of crime worth it? If you was to summarise it all now, looking back at it all,
there's been some real highs in my life, some really great times. If I had to summarise it, I'd be crazy to believe that it was actually worthwhile.
Yeah.
I've got 5 kids, I've got 11 grandkids, and you know what? I missed every single birthday. I missed the birth of all my grandkids.
Yeah.
So you know what? No, it wasn't worth it. I can remember sitting in prison. My nan died, who I was very fond of. I remember my kids all having their babies and having to speak to them on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed so many good things. I think these things can never be given back.
Cherish memories that you're
Yeah.
never ever going to get to see
Yeah.
again, basically. Things that you don't realise when you're doing these crimes and you committed what you've done, you don't realise the effects later on in life that it's going to kick you in the balls, basically.
I always say to everyone, you know, it starts off as something really romantic. You know, I'm gonna make a home. I'm gonna make somewhere nice for my kids to live. I'm gonna give them a nice education, nice cars. But you know what? With that lifestyle comes really bad shit. You know, because the more money you get, you know, your kids are at home, but you then have to go out. You go out partying, you go out meeting people, you go to different countries, you sleep around with lots of different birds,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, what you said and what you promised them goes out the window. And then you give them money, so you don't give them your time. You just give them, here's a missus, like, I'll buy her a new car,
Yeah.
I'll buy some clothes. The other kids, I'll get them anything they want. But the only thing they wanted was me.
Yeah, of course.
And I was out all the time. And when they really needed me, I was in prison.
Yeah.
So basically, I've let every single one of them down to the age of 20 years old. Because when I came out of prison, my oldest daughter was 20 years old.
Yeah.
I'm quite fortunate that one of my sons is 39. I did when I think I was 15. My other son now he's about 30, he's 34, and so is my oldest girl, Charlene. But you know, I miss everything. There's not one thing that I can actually say and say I was actually there.
Yeah.
But the only good thing is that the last 4 years that I've been out of prison, I've been able, thank God, to actually get that relationship back with all of them, which I never thought would happen. You know, I lost them. You know, even though they come up on the visits and they saw me in prison. You know that I never had them conversations. I never experienced their moments.
Yeah.
There's definitely a different relationship
School
between
plays,
their mum.
Christmas
Yeah.
plays, you know, just.
Well, I can see it. You know, with their mum, they're completely different. You know, I can see that closeness, that bond.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, as much as I'm now, and I'm their dad, and I'm ingratiating myself into their lives again. It's a slow process, but you know, we're getting there. But it's not how it should be. A father should be supportive. He should be there for his kids. He should be there every single day of their lives. And when they feel down or they're going through a really bad time, he should be there. And if they're giving birth, he should be in the waiting room, not in the prison waiting room.
Yeah.
So you know, so that's the regrets I have, and I seriously beat myself up over that many times.
Yeah, of course. Final question, mate. What would your message be to our younger generations?
First of all, put down knives and change your lives. For me, it's if you want to aspire to be doing 20 years in prison or 30 years in prison, then you do what I used to do and go out on a thief.
Yeah.
If you want to be a productive member of society and you want to give something back and you want to help people and do something good and you want to look back over your life and think, you know what, I lived every single day of my life properly and the way it should have been lived. You know what, and I've got no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you live my life, you're going to have nothing but regrets. So for me, it's about empowering the community as well. You know, when we was doing the knife crime talks, you know, and then we went back into the community. It was about telling the community, you know, I'm a criminal. I've got a criminal code that says I would give my right arm for my pal.
Yeah.
You know, and I would do that. You know, as a criminal. But there seems to be a misplaced loyalty with kids nowadays and the community. That if someone stabs an unarmed child, which is unheard of,
Yeah.
they protect them. So they protect the criminal code that protects the murders of our sons and daughters. So for me, it's about empowering the community to go out there and go, listen, you're stabbing an unarmed person, you're shooting an unarmed person, you don't deserve anything from me.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, it's about telling the community, if you know where there's knives stashed, you know where people who are stabbing kids are living or anything, put them up, because these are not criminals, these are scumbags.
Yeah.
So that's my advice. But for anyone, any kids who are in gangs, I'd say get out of them. I'd say run as fast as you can and get away from it, because you know, if you're in that life, eventually you will stab someone. Eventually someone will come for you.
Yeah.
So you know, the inevitable come in prison, and a lifetime in prison.
Yeah, and finally, Terry, I'd like to thank you, mate, for what you've done for our campaign, mate. I think you're a man with a wealth of knowledge and experience in many things, and you've certainly drove me through what we've been going through. And I look up to you in that respect, not as a criminal, but as someone that's got a lot of experience. And I'd like to thank you for the help that you've given me as well, mate. So
That's been a pleasure. You know, I think Change Your Life, Put Down Your Knife is pretty got me back on the road again. I think it does more for me. Because, you know, I've been through a hell of a lot. You know, I speak to mothers who've lost kids. I've lost quite a few of my friends over the years. No, this is my dog, by the way. It's a rescue dog.
Yes.
2 of them. But you know, I know what people go through. You know, to lose someone in your family is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I lost my dad lost his brother to knife crime. You know, and what they went through was uncalculable. You know, you can never bring them back, and you never get over it.
Yeah.
So you know what, you know, and I know what we went through. I know what the families go through, and I never want anyone to go through that. So
Yeah, of course.
you know, so for me, I think it's really important that you carry on doing what you're doing and getting the word out there, and hopefully everything you said about giving the kids somewhere and some hope and some self-respect and doing the courses that you want to implement over the next couple of years, that comes to fruition, I'll be more than happy.
Wicked. Terry, cheers buddy, thank you mate.
Thank you, brother.